What in heaven's name was that?
Oh, mere bagatelle. We are used to these things and care very little about them. The lunatics every now and then get up a howl in concert, one starting another, as is sometimes the case with a bevy of dogs at night. It occasionally happens, however, that the concerto yells are succeeded by a simultaneous effort at breaking loose, when, of course, some little danger is to be apprehended.
And how many have you in your charge?
Oh, at present we have not more than, what, 10 altogether?
Principally females, I presume?
Oh, no. Every one of the men, and stout fellows, too, I can tell you.
Indeed, for I've always understood that the majority of lunatics were of the gentler sex.
Well, it is generally so, but not always. For example, some time ago we had about 27 patients here, and of that number, no less than 18 were women, but lately matters have changed very much, as you see.
Yes, almost very much, as you see.
Yes, have changed very much, as you see. Hold your tongues, every one of you.
This gentlewoman, this lady here who gives us the cock-a-doodle-doo, she, I presume, is harmless, quite harmless, huh?
Harmless? What can you mean?
Oh, only slightly touched. Well, I take it for granted that she's not dangerously effective.
What is it to imagine this old lady, my particular old friend, Madame Joyeuse, well, she's absolutely as sane as myself. She has her little eccentricities, to be sure, but then all old women, all very old women are more or less eccentric.
To be sure, to be sure.
Sure. And this lady and gentleman are my friends and keepers, my very good friends and assistants.
What? Both of them? The lady and the man?
We cannot do it all without the ladies. They're the best lunatic nurses in the world. They have a way of their own, you know. Their eyes have a marvelous effect. Something like this fascination of the snake, you know.
To be sure. But still, they ain't a little odd, huh? They are a little queer. Don't you think so?
Odd? Queer? Well, do you think so? Well, we're not very prudish, to be sure, here in the South. Pretty much do as we please, enjoy life and all that sort of thing.
To be sure.
And then, of course, this Chloe Rougeau is a little heavy, you know, a little strong. Do you understand, yes?
To be sure. By the by, monsieur, did I understand you to say that the system that you have adopted in place of the celebrated system of soothing was one of very vigorous severity?
By no means. Our confinement isn't necessarily close, but the treatment, the medical treatment, I mean, is rather agreeable to the patients than otherwise.
And this system is one of your own invention?
Well, not altogether. Some parts of it are referable to Dr. Tarr, of whom, of course, you have necessarily heard. And again, there are modifications of my plan, which I'm happy to acknowledge as belonging to the right of the celebrated Fether, whom, if I'm not mistaken, you have the honor of an intimate acquaintance.
Well, I'm forced to confess that I've never heard the name of either gentleman before.
I did not actually intend to say that you have never heard of either the learned Dr. Tarr, the celebrated Professor Fether.
I'm forced to acknowledge my ignorance. The truth should be held inviolate above all things. Nevertheless, I feel humbled to the dust not to be acquainted with these no doubt extraordinary men. I will seek out their writings forthwith and peruse them with deliberate care. Monsieur Merritt, I must confess, you have really made me ashamed of myself.
Say no more, my good young friend. Come, join me in a glass of Chardonnay.
Sir, you mentioned something before dinner about the dangers incurred in the old system of soothing. How is that?
Oh, yes. Occasionally there was very great danger indeed. Thank you. There's to be no accounting for the caprices of madmen. And it is my honest opinion, as well as that of Dr. Tarr and Professor Fether, they should never be allowed to run at large unattended. A madman may be soothed, as it is called, for some time, but, well, in the end, he is apt to become obstreperous. His cunning, too, is proverbial and great. If he has a project in view, he conceals it with a marvelous wisdom. And the dexterity with which he counterfeits insanity presents to the metaphysician one of the most singular problems in the studies of mind. When a madman appears thoroughly sane, it is indeed high time to put him in a straitjacket.
But the danger, my dear sir, of which you were speaking, in your own experience, during your control of this house, have you had practical reason to believe liberty hazardous in the case of a lunatic?
Here, in my own experience, why, I may certainly say yes. For example, no very long while ago, a singular circumstance occurred in this very house. The soothing system, you know, was then in progress, and the madmen were at large. They behaved remarkably well, especially so. In fact, anyone of sense might have known that there was some devilish scheme brewing by the particular fact that the madmen behaved so remarkably well. And sure enough, one fine morning, the keepers awoke to find themselves pinioned, hand and foot, and thrown into cells, where they were treated as if they were lunatics, by the lunatics themselves who usurped the offices of the keepers.
You don't tell me so. I've never heard of anything so absurd in my life.
Fact. It all came to pass by means of a stupid fellow, a lunatic, who had somehow got it into his mind that he'd invented a better system of government than any ever heard of before. A lunatic government, of course. And he wanted to give his invention a trial, I suppose, and so he persuaded the rest of his fellows to join him in a conspiracy for the overthrow of the reigning powers.
And he really succeeded?
Well, no doubt of it. The keepers and the kept were soon made to exchange places. Well, not that exactly either, because the madmen had been free. But the keepers were thrown into cells forthwith and treated, I'm sorry to say, in a very cavalier manner.
But I presume a counter-revolution was soon effected. The condition of things could not have long existed. The country people in the neighborhood, visitors coming to inspect the establishment, would have given the alarm.
Ah, no, they were out. The head rebel was too clever for that. He admitted no visitors at all, with the exception one day of a very stupid-looking young gentleman, of whom he had no reason to be afraid. He let him in, just by means of riding, to have a look at the place. After he examined him sufficiently, he let him out and sent him about his business.
And how long then did the madman reign?
Oh, for a long time indeed. A month, certainly. How much longer, I can't precisely say. The madmen had a jolly time of it in the meanwhile, of that you may be certain. They doffed their own shabby clothes and made free with the family wardrobe and jewels. The cellars of the chateau were well stocked with wine. These madmen are just the fellows who know how to drink it. They live well, I can tell you.
And this treatment. What was the particular species of treatment that the leader of the rebels put into operation?
Well, as for that, a madman is not necessarily a fool, as I've already stated. And it is my honest opinion that his treatment was a better treatment than that which had superseded. It was a capital system indeed. It was simple, neat, no trouble at all. In fact, it was delicious.
Hear the sledges with the bells, silver bells. What a world of merriment their melody foretells.
How they tinkle, tinkle, tinkle in the icy air of night.
While the stars that oversprinkle all the heavens seem to twinkle with a crystalline delight.
Keeping time, time, time in a sort of runic rhyme.
To the tintinnabulation that so musically wells. From the bells,
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 from the jingling and to the tinkling
of the bells. Hear the mellow wedding bells.
golden bells.
What a world of happiness their harmony foretells.
Through the balmy air of night, how they ring out their delight.
From the molten golden notes and all in tune, what a liquid ditty floats to the turtle dove that listens while she gloats on the moon.
Oh, from out the sounding cells, what a gush of euphony voluminously wells. How it swells.
How it dwells on the future.
How it tells of the rapture that impels.
To the swinging and the ringing
Of the bells,
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 of the bells, bells,
bells,
bells,
bells,
bells,
bells,
to the rhyming
and to the chiming.
of the bells.
Hear the loud alarm bells, brazen bells. What a tale of terror now their turbulency
In
tells.
the startled ear of night.
How they scream out their affright.
Too much horrified to speak.
They can only shriek,
Shriek out of tune.
In a
clamorous appealing to the mercy of the fire.
Dramatic expostulation.
With the dead,
And frantic
fire,
leaping higher,
higher, higher.
With a desperate desire.
And a resolute endeavor now to sit or never.
By the side of the pale-faced moon. Oh, the bells, bells, bells.
What a tale their terror tells.
Of despair. How they clang
And clash.
and roar.
What a horror they outpour.
on the bosom of the palpitating air.
Yet the ear it fully knows.
By the twanging.
And to the clanging.
How the danger ebbs and flows.
Yes, the ear distinctly tells.
By the jangling. And the wrangling.
How the danger sinks and swells.
By the sinking or the swelling in the anger of the bells.
Of the bells.
Of the bells, bells.
Bells, bells,
Bells, bells.
Bells in the clamor.
And the clangor
of the bells.
Hear the tolling of the bells.
Iron
world of solemn thought their monody compels. In the silence of the night, how we shiver with the fright at the melancholy menace of the tone.
For every sound that floats from the rust within their throats
is a groan.
And the people are the people, they that dwell up in the steeple all alone.
And to tolling, 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 in that muffled monotone, feel a glorian soul rolling on the human heart of stone.
They are neither man nor woman, they are neither brute nor human.
They are ghouls, and their king it is who tolls, and he rolls, 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 rolls the paean from the bells, and his merry bosom swells with the paean of the bells, and he dances and he yells,
Keeping time, in a sort of runic rhyme, to the paean of the bells,
keeping time, in a sort of runic rhyme, to the throbbing of the bells,
bells,
to the sobbing of the bells, keeping time,
as he nails, in a sort
happy
of
runic rhyme,
to the
rolling of the bells, 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 to the tolling of the bells, 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 to the moaning and the groaning of the bells.
Tables you have turned must be put to rights.
No, my good sir, unhand your keeper.
And who might you be, monsieur?
I am Dr. Pascal of Paris. Let's be a good fellow and unhand your superintendent.
Indeed, this gentleman some 2 or 3 years before had been the superintendent of this establishment, but he grew crazy himself and so became a patient. He then incited his fellows to rebellion. The keepers, some 10 in number, having been suddenly overpowered, were first well tarred and then carefully feathered and then shut up in underground cells. We have been so imprisoned for more than a month, during which period of time Monsieur Marriott has generously allowed us not only the tar and feathers, but some bread and an abundance of water, the latter of which was pumped on us daily. At length, one escaping through the sewer brought freedom to the rest of us. Come along now, Monsieur Marriott. To your cells.
It appears that the accounting that Monsieur Marriott gave was merely a relating of his own exploits. I have only to add that although I have searched every library in Europe for the works of celebrated Dr. Tarr and Professor Fether, I have, up until the present day, utterly failed in my endeavors of procuring such an edition.